Hey guys, Miss Caro here with another virtual art lesson for you guys. Happy Friday. It is our Fun Friday. So today we're going to be doing a Memorial Day celebration. All right, we're going to wrap up our Memorial Day activities and our activities that are connected to Jasper Johns. All right, so for today's activity, we have a couple of things lined up. We're going to go ahead and do a read-along story of Memorial Day. We're going to make a Memorial Day inspired craft that also incorporates Jasper Johns' theme of the American flag. And we're going to end our lesson today with a short but sweet video to honor those on Memorial Day. So it's going to be a clip of last year's Memorial Day medley. All right, so before we get started with any of our activities, let's go ahead and get our stretch on and then we'll continue. All right, so let's stretch to our left, stretch to our right, stretch up and down, up, down, one more big one, up and down. Give yourself a big hug, squeeze, take a deep breath in and relax. Way to go, guys. All right, so up next we're going to listen to our Memorial Day story, so stay tuned and then we'll meet right back here. Enjoy.
Memorial Day Surprise by Teresa Martin Golding. Is it a really big surprise, Mama? Asked Marco. Oh, yes, said Mama. It is a very big surprise, but we must hurry. The parade will start soon. Marco held Mama's hand tightly and walked faster. Many people were leaving the porches of their brick row houses. Children skipped down the steps of the big apartment building. Abuelo, Marco's grandfather, lived there on the 5th floor, but Mama said there was no time to stop. What could the surprise be that made Mama rush so? They always stopped to visit Abuelo. Marco watched the flags dance in the breeze. What is Memory Day, Mama? He asked. Mama smiled. It is called Memorial Day, she said. But Memory Day is a good name, too. It is a time to remember some special people. Who, Mama? You will see, she said. Beep, beep. 2 girls swooped past Marco. Red and blue streamers fluttered from their bicycles and swished in the wind. Everyone was in a hurry to get to the parade. When they reached the avenue, Marco's eyes opened wide. All the stores where Mama liked to shop were closed. The sidewalks were crowded with people sitting on folding chairs or colorful blankets. 2 boys were even sitting on top of the big blue mailbox. Marco heard someone calling his name. Look, Mama! He pointed across the wide avenue. Jenna is here too. Is this a surprise? No, Marco, Mama answered. The surprise is even more special than seeing your best friend at the parade. Marco sat on the curb with Jenna. The sun was hot on top of his head. The big avenue seemed different without its zooming cars and rumbling trucks. It was like a rushing river that had run out of water. Marco jumped up. Did you hear that? He asked. The faint brrrr, bump, bump of a drum sounded in the distance. Marco held his breath as the band marched closer and stopped right in front of him. The leader slowly raised his baton and the music burst into the air. Horns and drums and the clash of the cymbals. Marco stood very still. The music was inside him, alive and jumping in his chest. Boom, boom. He felt a thunder in his stomach. Crash, crash. It tingled down his arms. Batons flew in the air. Pom-poms swooshed. Feet stamped in rhythm and the band moved on. Marco wished Abuelo could have heard the music. Maybe it would have made his legs tingle again. Was that the surprise, Mama? Marco shouted. Was it? Was it? No, Marco, said Mama. The surprise is even more special than the marching band. A siren screamed and Marco jumped. A long red fire engine rolled down the avenue, its lights spinning and flashing. A firefighter walked beside the big engine. He stopped and shook Marco's hand. He gave Marco a little flag. Marco waved the flag at the noisy fire truck. Was that the surprise, Mama? Mama shook her head. No, Marco, the surprise is even more special than meeting a real firefighter. Look, Jenna shouted. A truck was pulling a big float right down the street. It was the Statue of Liberty. A man with a dark beard stood in front of the statue. With his tall hat and long face, he looked just like Abraham Lincoln. Jenna frowned. They are throwing things at people, she said. That is not nice. It's candy, screamed Marco. Marco and Jenna dropped to the ground and scooped up all the candy that fell at their feet. Mama, look! Marco opened his fist and showed her all the sweets he had collected. That was the surprise, wasn't it? No, Marco, Mama said. The surprise is even more special than catching candy at the parade. Marco put a butterscotch into his pocket. He would give it to Abuelo when he told him all about this parade. What was happening? All the people stood up and began clapping. Marco could not see. There were no sirens, no band, no falling candy. Still, the clapping became louder. Men and women in uniforms with shiny medals came marching down the avenue. Right up in the very front was Marco's grandfather. Abuelo! Marco shouted and waved his hands. Why is your grandfather in the parade? Jenna asked. Marco stood tall. My grandfather is a hero. Abuelo put out his arms and Marco ran and climbed into his lap. Happy Memorial Day, Marco, Abuelo said. Marco threw his arms around Abuelo's neck. Happy Memorial Day, Abuelo. He took the butterscotch out of his pocket and pressed it into Grandfather's warm hand. Marco did not need to ask Mama. He knew this was the best Memory Day surprise of all.
Welcome back, guys. I hope you enjoyed the Memorial Day surprise book. Right, so next up we're going to work on our craft. Okay, so before we get started on our craft, I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate what materials you guys are going to need to complete this activity. Alright, so you're going to need a paper bag, brown paper bag. Okay, you're going to need some glue. Okay, for this particular activity, I recommend the liquid and not the glue stick because we're going to be gluing on some white buttons. So you're going to need some buttons, white. I have my lots of buttons. I have to go through here and pick out my white ones. Alright, and you're going to need some paint. You're going to need red paint. You're going to need some white and blue. Can anybody guess why we're using red, white, and blue? You got it. The American flag is red, white, and blue. Alright, so we're going to be using those colors. And if you're using paint, you're going to need a paint palette. You're going to need a cup with some water and a paintbrush. Alright, so go ahead and take the next minute to gather your materials, and then we'll meet right back here again to get started. Welcome back, guys. I hope you're able to grab your materials easily. We're gonna go ahead and get started with our Memorial Day flag craft. All right, so the first step we're gonna take is we're gonna grab our paper bag. All right, and if you can see, it already has the rectangle set for us to paint. All right, so remember in yesterday's activity, we had to draw and cut out our rectangle. Well, today it's already done for us. So we're gonna use this area only to paint blue. All right, so I have my paint palette here with my red, my white, and my blue ready to go. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab my paintbrush. I'm gonna grab some blue paint. Remember, a little bit goes a long way, okay? So you don't need too much paint. Again, if you don't have paint at home, it's okay. You can go ahead and do this craft with markers, color pencils, crayons, whatever you have at home. All right, so I'm gonna grab some blue paint. I'm gonna go ahead and start painting only the rectangle. So the top part of my paper bag. Okay. Make sure you're staying within the rectangle. Okay, because this other part is going to be used for the stripes. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and continue painting this. Okay, some more blue paint. If you're using acrylic paint and you feel like it's a little bit too thick, you can add a little bit of water to it to help it spread more easily on your paper bag. Not too much water because you don't want it to be runny, but it'll help you out a little bit. Okay, make sure you get your edges in. Okay, just gonna paint this little corner down here. Okay, make sure you're painting your area evenly. So you don't want to add too much paint on one side and not enough on the other. So just make sure you're going over spots that might be a little bit lighter and cover it completely. Okay, I'm gonna set it down for just a second to get my edge in. And then I'll bring it up to the camera so you guys can see it. Okay. Alrighty, and I am just about done with my blue section. Alright, so my flag is going to be this way. Alright, I'm going to add a little bit of glue to this part down here to go ahead and secure it. Okay. You might want to do this before you start your painting. I just realized now that it would be moving a little bit, but it's okay. You can do it after if you've already started. It's fine. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take off the excess glue at the top because if not, it's not going to come out. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to add some glue down here to secure it. Okay. Added it. Okay, I'm pressing it down, and there you have it. All right, so go ahead and take the next minute to go ahead and paint this area only blue. All right, remember, don't do anything on this side just yet. We're only gonna get our blue side painted. All right, I'll see you soon. Alright guys, welcome back. It is time to add some stripes to our flag. Okay, so if you remember from yesterday's video when we made our flag, we have a certain pattern that we follow when making our flag. Alright, you're gonna have red, white, red, white. So you're alternating the colors, alright, to keep up with the pattern. We're gonna do the same thing with this flag. Alright, before I start my stripes, I'm gonna go ahead and clean out my brush. As you can see, it still has blue paint from our rectangle that we just painted. So I'm gonna go ahead, grab my water, clean out my brush, okay, and then I'm gonna dry it off with a paper towel to make sure it is completely clean. So, see, no more blue paint. Alright, now I'm gonna go ahead and grab some red paint on my palette, and I'm gonna start with my lines. Alright, so I'm gonna start with my first stripe up here, and this paintbrush is pretty thick, so I think I'm gonna use this width for my lines, so it makes it easier. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and set it down for a minute so it's easier. And I'm gonna do my first stripe up at the top with my red paint. Okay, and then I'll bring it up to the camera so you can see it. Alrighty, so my first stripe is ready at the top. Remember, we're doing an alternating pattern. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead, clean out my brush. Make sure you clean it well, because if you don't, the white will get stained and it won't look white. So go ahead and dip it again into your water. Okay, then you're gonna take it out and you're gonna wipe it here. Okay, so right now you see it has a little bit of color still. So I'm gonna keep on cleaning it until there's no more. Okay. So now it is ready, no more dirt. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab my white. Gonna dip my paintbrush into the white. Alright, and I'm gonna go ahead and do a white stripe on my flag. Okay. And then I'll bring it up to the camera so you guys can see it. Okay, remember, if it gets a little bit thick, go ahead and put it inside your water so that it spreads easily. Alrighty, so now I have a white stripe, and I'm going to go ahead and continue with the pattern. I'm going to clean out my brush again. Okay, and to make things a little bit easier, I'm going to go ahead and get all my red stripes in at once. Alright, so I don't have to keep cleaning in between. I'm going to go ahead, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, it's okay. You can just repeat the steps. But for me, I'm going to go ahead and just get all my red stripes in first, and then fill in the gaps with my white. Okay, so I'll show you what I mean now. Okay, I have another red stripe here. Now remember, I'm using just the width of my brush to measure out my lines. You can make them thinner, you can make them thicker, completely up to you. Okay, but I now have red, white, and red. Now I'm gonna go ahead and skip this middle part where the white should be and start another red line, just so I don't have to keep switching back and forth between my paint. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and do another line here. And then continue my pattern. Okay. So I have another red stripe, and I left the space, in the middle for my white. Right, I'm gonna go ahead and do another. stripe right here. Then I'm gonna leave a space again. Okay. See, so I've left my 2 spaces there for the white, and I'm gonna have space for one more red stripe. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab my paint and do the last stripe. Okay. Alrighty. So this is what we have so far, and now the gaps that I have left open, I'm gonna go ahead and fill in with my white paint. Okay, but now that I am switching colors, I'm gonna go ahead and clean out my brush. Make sure we get a nice bright white and not pink or any other color. Okay, so I'm gonna clean it out. Okay, and now I'm going to use my paper towel to make sure I don't have any extra paint on there. Alright, so it's nice and clean. I'm going to go ahead and grab my palette and use my white paint again. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and fill in those white lines. Then I'll bring it up again to the camera so you guys see it. Alright, and if you remember from Jasper John's work, a lot of it had some imperfections on it, so don't worry if your lines are not perfectly straight. If some has more texture than others, or if there are some empty spots, it's okay. That's part of your unique pieces, so don't worry about that. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and fill in my last white stripe, and then I'll bring it up to the camera so you guys see what it looks like, okay? So I am done painting my flag. So this is what you should have so far. We're gonna give this about a minute to dry. It dries fairly quickly, so I'm gonna give it about a minute before we start adding on our buttons. Alright, so I'll see you guys real soon. Guys, welcome back to our final step of our flag craft. Alright, so for this part, now that everything is dry, pretty dry, we're gonna go ahead and grab our white buttons. I have them in different sizes. I have big ones, medium, and small ones. Alright, and I'm gonna go ahead and just put random dots in different parts of my flag, and then once I have those dots in, I'm gonna go ahead and place a button on each dot. Okay, so there are my dots. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my buttons and start placing them put medium one here. Okay, and now I'm gonna grab some smaller ones and start incorporating those. Okay, another small one here. And then I'll bring it up to the camera so you guys can see it. Okay, and one more. Alright, these might take a little bit longer to dry. So once you're done gluing them, you're gonna have to set them down for a little bit. Alright, so this is my finished flag. I hope you guys enjoyed this activity and that you're able to recreate it at home. Remember to take videos, photos, tag us on social media, bring it to show and tell on Zoom. I hope you guys have an amazing Memorial Day weekend, have fun, but also remember why we celebrate Memorial Day. All right, I'll see you guys next time, and I wish you well.
The beginning of the National Memorial Day concert to salute all the men and women from every branch of our armed services. Please welcome the Chiefs of the Military Services and the National Guard Bureau.
And now, Maestro Jack Everly and our orchestra and military choruses perform the Armed Services Medley. Whether here or watching at home, please stand when your service is presented.
The United States Coast Guard! Navy. The United States